Hello everyone, this is Dr. Carlos Carrera Zarco. Welcome to a new session in your module Build Asset Management. In that session, we are going to cover the topic Risk Analysis and Risk Management. Here you have the main objectives that we are trying to achieve in that session. The first one would be that you understand the concept of risk. In that session, we will describe the impact of different risks in asset management, and we will learn the process of risk management, which are the main stages for risk management, and what must be done in each stage. Finally, we will learn about some response strategy as well as some regulations to deal with risk in asset management. I would like to start by providing a definition of risk. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, a risk is the possibility of meeting danger or suffering harm or loss. So clearly, our conceptualization of risk is connected with danger, with harm, with loss, with something negative. But let's explore the conceptualization of risk in projects. According to PMI, project risk is an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has a positive or negative effect on a project objective. So here we are introducing something new. A risk can be positive or negative, but the common thing is that this uncertain event could affect the project objectives. This is connected with a change of paradigm in risk management. Before 1997, risk definitions were always connected with negative aspects. They were threat-based. But with the entering in the new millennium, risk management embraced both threat and opportunities, considering negative and positive risk. So the objective of risk management would be to minimize the negative effects of threat risk while attempting to maximize the positive effect of opportunity risk or positive risk. To complete that conceptualization, I would like to provide the concept of opportunity from this new risk management perspective. An opportunity can be defined as an ascertained event or set of conditions that, if it occurs, would benefit the project objectives or the business. Obviously, we can consider different aspects of risk. There are some risks which are connected with safety, and that's the reason because we have a strong health and safety legislations. Other aspects of the risk are connected with security, and it's important to consider the implication if breaches occur that could be reputational for the company and also commercial. You can think of accidents such as the accident of British Petroleum in the Mexico Gulf some years ago that has a huge reputational impact. According to the UK Health and Safety, we can distinguish different types of risk. They are pretty connected with risk while working, and it's clear that the different assets in their different categories, information asset, intangible asset, financial asset, human asset, and the ones which are the focus of this module, the physical assets, may be affected by risk. For example, information asset could be affected by data breach, human asset with health and safety, financial asset with financial risk, etc. And it's also important to consider the hierarchy of risk. Obviously, the different risks could affect at different level, at project and operational level, at program level, or even more important, at strategic level. So we need to implement different plans at different levels. Here you have the definition of risk management in asset management. The main purpose of risk management would be to understand the cause, effect, and likelihood of different events occurring to manage optimally such risk to an acceptable level and to provide an audit trail for the management of this risk. According to the International Infrastructure Management, regarding physical asset, at least we need to identify which assets are critical and which events can affect these assets and outline risk management strategies for these. Here you have a classical model for risk management. The first step is to consider the risk environment or risk context by analyzing laws and regulations, our capacity, the general economy, the government, etc. Then we should analyze the risk at extended enterprise level. It means risk connected with the sponsor, with some partner organizations, etc. And then the cycle itself is first to identify the risk, then to assess the risk, address the different risks that we have identified and assessed, and finally reviewing and reporting the risk. And as you can see, the communicational learning is a common activity throughout the whole process. Obviously, we can identify different types of risk. The first one are the external. So they are not within the organization's control, but still we can take some actions to mitigate this risk. To identify external risk, we usually employed the PESTEL model, which identify risk connected with political, economic, sociocultural, technological, legal or regulatory, and environmental. Also, we can identify operational risk, which are relating with existing operation, both currently delivery and building and maintaining capacity and capability. Here you have different aspects to consider when identifying risk at operational level. And in the third place, we have risk connected with change. These are the risks created by the decision to pursue new endeavors beyond the current capability. When we are trying to introduce something new, when we are trying to implement a new project to achieve a new capability, or new policies, or to change the way of working, etc. So the process to manage risk in asset management is the following. First, we need to analyze the context by understanding what is at risk and why. Then, we will identify the different types of risk. What and where are these risks? After that, we need to evaluate the risk in the risk assessment stage. So we need to understand what is known about the different risks and how important are they. And finally, the risk control or treatment that needs to respond to the question about what should be done about this risk. So here you have the process graphically. So first we analyze the context, we identify the risk, we evaluate the different risks. We need to start the communication to understand if we are evaluating the risk properly. And finally, the risk control and the implementation of response strategy. Obviously, in that cycle, we need to review and update continuously to check if the strategies that we have implemented are working or not, and in case that some improvements need to be done or some risk need to be reevaluated, to take these considerations into account. Now we are going to focus more particularly on risk at project level. In a project, we can find risk connected with the client, with the contractors, and with the designers. So basically, we can identify some risk connected with the design of the physical asset, with the execution process, and contractors' risk, and with the management of the project or financial issues connected with the client. In order to analyze the risk, We can use different tools. Maybe the most common one is the risk matrix. Basically, the risk matrix combines the likelihood of risk occurrence with the effect that that risk will have on the project objectives. So basically, we are going to categorize or to assess the different risks in terms of impact and probability of occurrence. This is a very good tool for risk prioritization and will provide the different stakeholders with a good overview about risk propensity in a particular project. Here you have how a risk matrix looks like. In this X we have the probability and here we have the impact. We can consider different scale, both numerical or quantitative and qualitative. So according with the consequences, we can consider that a risk could be extreme, high, moderate, low, or negligible. And according to the probabilities, we can consider the risk as not likely, low, moderate, high, or expected. Here you have a real example of application of risk matrix in a project. Well, when the risks have been identified and evaluated, we need to design our response strategies to deal with the risk and try to minimize the negative risk and maximize the positive risk, the opportunities. So we will implement different strategies. For negative risk, we can try to avoid risk, mitigate, share, transfer, or accept. While for opportunities, we can implement strategies to exploit, to enhance, to share, or to reject. An important tool to keep track of the different risks is to create a risk register in which we are providing an ID for the risk, a brief risk description, the identification of the cause of risk, the probability of occurrence, impact, which is the risk response plan, who is or who are the risk owner, and the date of entry for that risk. Here you have a simple example of application of risk register. So basically, risk matrix and risk register are the most common tools to be applied in risk management. And finally, we obviously need to control the risk, control the application of our response strategies. And we also have to follow the regulations. Regarding health and safety at work, the Act 1974 includes the main principle, which is that risk to health and safety should be reduced to a LARP. And what does it mean? It means as low as reasonable practical. So the application of different strategies to reduce health and safety issues to the minimum is compulsory. And then we have to consider the Construction Design and Management Regulation, the CDM regulations. Basically, this regulation places duties on all those involved in construction work. And these regulations are connected with avoid hazards, reduce the risk, and provide collective measures. This is connected with the PPE, the personal protective equipment. In 2015, some important changes were introduced into the CDM regulations. For example, the role of CDM coordinator was removed and a new role of principal designer was introduced. The responsibility for the management and coordination of all the health and safety issues were now placed between the design team, and that the new regulations were applied to all clients, including domestic clients. Basically, whatever your role in construction, the CDM aims to provide health and safety in the industry by helping to set a right plan, to have the right people, to cooperate and coordinate your work with others, to have the right information about risk and how they are being managed, to ensure that communication of this information is effectively happen, and to consult and engage with workers about the risk and how they are being managed. So, for designers, there are still duties to advise the client, taking into consideration pre-construction information and providing the principles of prevention to eliminate, reduce, and control risks, providing also information about remaining risk. Here you have a summary about the CDM regulation. So basically, we need to consider three principles: assess, which include plan, identify, assess, and involve; control, which include prevent, control, and train; and review, which include supervise, maintain, monitor, and act. Here you have the references for that session, and this is all from me now. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon in our synchronous session. Goodbye.